Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Evolution of Aloha podcast, a Plowline Media production. I am your host, Dr. Jerry Ebalaroza-Tunnell. So, most people wait for the right time, the right plan, the right version of themselves. But some people jump, not because it's safe, but because staying the same costs more. So today we sit, he alo ahe alo, face to face with a woman who chose to jump. From a dairy farm in Georgia to the cockpit of a Boeing 737, Susan Sherman didn't just change careers. She changed her life by answering a question most people avoid. What if I actually go all in on myself? She walked away from certainty, stepped into the unknown, and learned how to navigate the sky and her own becoming at the same time. Because aloha isn't just love, it's presence, it's breath, it's the courage to show up fully alive. And Susan lives by one truth: be alive. Not later, not when it's convenient, now. So this isn't just a conversation about a pilot, this is a moment you stop waiting for and start becoming. And so I want to welcome Susan to the 30th episode of the Evolution of Aloha podcast. So, Susan, welcome so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jerry. It was an honor to meet you 2 weeks ago, and I'm so happy to be here with you again now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we met at She Dares to Rise conference that was held in Beaverton on March 8th on Women's History Month, Women's History Month,
Just
International Women's Month. I don't know what it is. I just believe that we should be celebrated every month. But that's where we met, and both Susan and I were we had the honor of sharing the stage together. And so when I heard about Susan being a pilot for Alaska Airlines, I was like, oh my gosh. And hearing your story, I just needed to have you on this podcast so that way the world can hear about you. So I had a question that I wanted to start off with, and yeah, answer it however you whatever comes up for you. So there was a moment when you chose to leave certainty behind, not because you had all the answers, but because something in you refused to stay. And a lot of times we live by certainty. And so when people choose that certainty, there is this discomfort that happens. And so for you, what did that voice sound like? And what did it cost you to listen to that voice?
well, I've had a few of those moments during my lifetime, but I think the big one that sent me to where I am now was I was living in Cody, Wyoming, after having worked in Yellowstone Park for a while. Sort of stagnated in my job, had recently divorced, sort of trying to figure out where to go with my future, um, needing to pursue some kind of education. And I remember getting off an airplane one day, seeing the pilots stand in the at the exit, and thinking to myself that that could be me one day, and that I didn't want the reason that that didn't happen for me to be because I didn't try. I mean, there's always the chance that I'm not good at it, I don't like it, I'm not successful in the training, whatever. But I felt like it would be a huge wasted opportunity if I did not make the effort. And so I quit my job, rented out my house, took out a loan, moved to Arizona, and went to flight school full time. So that was, it felt like sort of jumping off a cliff with my eyes closed. And I mean, my backstop was that I had a home I could go back to in Wyoming. Could probably get maybe not my exact job back, but some job back. So it didn't feel like there was no going back if I needed to. But it was a little scary, and it was also very exciting.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. You're like, yo, I'm gonna be a pilot and I'm gonna just put everything, I'm just gonna put everything on hold over here and I'm gonna move to Arizona and I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like be alive. Be alive. That's pretty much what you did, right? And so I also wanted to ask you, like, where did that come from? Where did that mantra come from? Be alive.
That is something that my friend Jody Harskamp says every day in her whatever social media post she's writing. She's a coworker. I've flown with her. She was a captain at Alaska Airlines when I was a first officer, and she still is a captain. But she was donated a kidney to one of our flight attendants, and she accomplishes all kinds of athletic feats, ultra marathons, mountaineering, um, you name it. If there's some crazy endurance something, Jody's going to go do it. So that's how she signs off all of her posts, is be alive. But it's very inspiring. I mean, she's the kind of person that makes me feel like a couch potato. So I'm like, oh, wait, I probably should be doing something.
Wow, Jody sounds amazing. And gosh, you need to thank you, Jody, for donating a kidney. That story right there, just especially the kidney part, kind of like hit me personally because I had a nephrectomy about 15 years ago. And so I only have one kidney
Oh, well.
and I'm on the list. I'm on the list. I can't take Jody's other kidney, but But wow,
Yeah.
what a mantra, to be alive. And just hearing about how you took that step. You wanted to be a pilot. Now, what brought you to that? I know you were talking about how you saw a person standing there. What made you want to do that? Like, was there something that you grew up with on wanting to always be a pilot?
No, not at all. I do remember when I was a little kid, if we saw a small plane fly overhead, my dad would comment on it, and he had a friend who was a crop duster. So sometimes we would see his friend fly over in this crop dusting plane. But when I was in college, I sort of stumbled into aviation through my roommates. My roommate was dating a flight instructor. So I had learned to fly. I had my private pilot's license. So I was sitting on that. I had an interest in aviation. I didn't have the means to fly for fun, to rent a plane very often. And so that was sort of stagnating along with my career that needed some sort of advanced degree to pursue. So I kind of just decided to put that all together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you went from ground to sky, from rooted life to this constant movement. So what did becoming a pilot reveal about yourself that you couldn't have learned any other way?
That's a tough question. I feel like I learned a lot about piloting is very disciplined and structured. I tend to be sort of a shoot from the hip. I feel things more than um, the academic side of things sometimes, and so it really pushed me into following structure. Um, we have checklists to follow, we have procedures we follow, and so that's something that didn't always come naturally to me, and you kind of find that in yourself. Um, did that answer the question at all?
Yeah, I think, I mean, so it's like becoming a pilot and I would say that, in that industry, aviation is predominantly it's male dominated, correct?
It's a heavily male dominated industry. I've seen in the 30 years that I've been doing this, I've seen a lot more women become involved in aviation, which is great. And the whole attitude, uh, it used to be really a good old boys club. Most pilots came from the military. So it was very, that kind of militant structure. And that's no longer the case. The military doesn't feed that many pilots out anymore. So most pilots do come from the civilian side, from college. But still, only about 6% of US airline pilots are women. And that's much smaller for captains, because we always have, two pilots in the flight deck. So the total pilot population is about 6% women. Captains, I don't even know, something smaller than that. So it's definitely a male dominated field. That has been tough to navigate at times. And I think some people struggle with it more than others. I've, I'm fortunate, having grown up on a dairy farm with a sister and no boys. We weren't really treated like girls. We were just treated like kids who needed to get the chores done. And so we did, lots of farm work. We had toy tractors right next to our dolls. So we kind of, I didn't really grow up with a hardcore gender specific, gender role mentality. So it never bothered me to go into something that women aren't commonly found in.
Yes, yes. Let's talk a little bit about the gender roles, because I think that's one of the things that probably stop a lot of women from entering into aviation, is probably because the stigma of it being predominantly male. Tell me more. I mean, what are your feelings about that?
I think that's true to a point. I'm in a social media group of Facebook of women pilots, and so you hear all of their stories about, from their training to their jobs and not being taken seriously or dealing with harassment. And so it is very interesting. And I think there are a lot of women who are intimidated by, being a female in a male role. But again, I think that's much less common than it used to be, because you do see a lot more women. And with the, advent of social media, you have influencers who are pilots. And so
Hmm.
you have a lot more role models, which I
Yes.
think is great. But it still can be very intimidating, I think, for women.
Yes, yes, I love it. You know that I think it's so important for the next generation to have these role models. I mean, I know that, and I travel a lot. Like I am gone every once a week, 1 week out of the month, I'm
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And it's like whenever I'm in a plane and I'm leaving and and we're saying goodbye and and a pilot comes on. And the pilot is, obviously female identifying. It makes me feel good,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
she flew this plane. You know, that's that's a lot, because even for me, right? Even for me growing up, I always used to think that it was, there were these roles that people had to play.
Right. Right. Well, even now, sometimes, I meet, you know, girls or parents who are like, oh, my daughter wants to be a flight attendant. I'm like, don't be a flight attendant, be a pilot.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like, why not? Right? Why not?
Yeah.
I remember when I was working in the school district. This is kind of sad, but it's, about identity and that role model. So there was children that were coloring and everything like that, and they were drawing and everything. And there was this little girl, and she had a teacher, and then she had like a student, and she like kind of like she was probably like in the third grade. And I said, and she was an African American girl.
Okay.
And so I pointed to the teacher, and I said, I'm like, who is that? And she's like, oh, that's the teacher. I'm like, I thought that would be you. And she's like, oh, no, no, no. I can't be a teacher. And I was like, why can't you be a teacher? And she looks at the teacher, who is a white woman. She goes, because teachers look like that. she didn't see herself
Yeah.
as a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like I'm just thinking about you standing there, or even a little girl, either coming on a plane or leaving, and she sees a pilot
Yeah.
and she's like, I can be that,
Yeah.
right? I think that's so, that's so powerful. That's so powerful.
I think that's one of the things I really enjoy is standing at the door when people are getting off and for those little girls to see me. And but it's funny, a lot of people don't notice that I'm the pilot. They just think I'm the flight attendant. And I'll have guys will walk past and go, "Oh, tell the guys good job." I'm like, yeah, that was me." It's
Wow.
really funny. But I do try to be, in my pilot uniform and the little girls see me. And sometimes you see the moms or the dads go, "Hey, there's a female pilot." So uh, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know what was pretty cool, Susan, is when we were together in Beaverton, and it was, I mean, it's like you showed up on our day that we had to speak, and you showed up fully dressed as a pilot. I was like, yes, yes. That was so
Yeah.
awesome. That
Wow.
was
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I was a little reluctant to do that, but Jay suggested it, and I thought it does convey that that I really am that, it's easier to visualize.
exactly. Why did you contemplate for a moment? Why did you
Wearing
think,
wearing
yeah,
the uniform?
yeah.
I don't. I mean, the first thing I want to do every day at the end of my workday is get my uniform off. So I'm not excited to wear it on my day off. And I can sometimes I'm a little self conscious in public in my uniform. I just feel like it draws attention, and I don't really like drawing attention to myself in public.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that's so funny because you're the pilot. You're the pilot. Attention should be on you. Attention should be on you. That's so, I mean, that's so amazing. What was being in pilot school like? Tell me about that journey.
It was fun. So I'm in Arizona. It's at Deer Valley Airport. It's not a college because I already had a college degree. So it's strictly a flight training program. You get, you fly with an instructor, you get your ratings. But we did have classroom time. Every rating involves a written test. And so we did have classroom time to cover all the ground training that's required and the material to pass the written test. And in my class of 20-ish people, there would be like one or two other women in a class of, yeah, like 20 to 25. So small, but there were some. Um, and so that was intense. And then I would go fly. You had to do some flights were with an instructor, some were solo, some things we did in a simulator. So I would do most days I was doing 2 to 3 activities at school, either, a classroom and a flight with my instructor, or a flight with my instructor and then a solo flight, or, some combination of those things, 2 to 3 events a day, like at least 5 days a week, sometimes 6 or even 7, just because I wanted to get through my training, which I did all in 9 months. But it was very fun. A lot of students came from were international. Some people so there are a lot of people that shared apartments, and we had group study sessions, and there was this dive bar down the street that we all went to on Friday nights, or anytime someone passed a check ride for a new rating. We would all celebrate there at Cash's bar. Like, so it was very, a community, um, a lot of hard work, but you were in a group of people who were all sharing that same experience. And so it really was a lot of fun.
And what kind of planes were you flying at that time?
We started out in Cessna 172s, and the flight school bought a fleet of brand new Piper Archers, which is a low wing. Like a Cessna has a high wing plane. An Archer is still a single engine plane about the same size and
Hmm.
power, but it has a low wing, so you step up on the wing to get into the plane.
Okay, okay.
And they bought that brand new fleet of planes, and I actually got to help ferry one home from Florida to Phoenix. I went with two other of my flight school people, and the three of us flew it home. It took 3 days to, we'd fly, we'd stop for fuel and lunch, and we'd fly and stop for the night, and then hop our way over. So we spent 3 days doing that.
Wow. Okay. And then so the first time when you flew a jet, what what was that like? What was that transition like?
The first jet I flew was a corporate plane, and I didn't really have a lot of multi-engine experience. And I was hired by this company that manages private planes for people. And so it was a small jet, but very powerful. And to me, with the experience that I had at that time, I was like mind blown. I'm like, whoa, like this is, fast and powerful and really, really cool.
Wow. How did you feel? Like, well, how did you feel when pretty much stepped into the cockpit?
Again, like a little anxious because it's so new, and excited because it's new, and very like eager to learn. When I started that job, they didn't send me to airplane specific school, which is pretty common. So I would get up every morning at 6 o'clock and study for an hour before, I did anything else. Because you have to learn the systems of the airplane and how everything works. And um, yeah, it was. I felt very excited to take on a new challenge.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So when you're in school and it's like you were talking about being with this cohort of people, um, the people that start with you, do you have those same people that go all the way through with you or do people drop out?
Oh, people drop out for sure. It's a very expensive program. I was fortunate. I borrowed money to pay upfront for the whole program. So, but to stay within that budget, you have to progress, because if you require extra time, then it takes extra money. So I was highly motivated to stick within that budget. Um, I think only of the people that I started with, I think only two other people finished that whole program at the same time I did. Others were farther behind, or dropped out altogether. Um, some of my classmates, some of them ended up being like coworkers. One of my best study mates just retired from Alaska Airlines, like sometime around now. I don't remember exactly when his last flight is, but he'd had a previous career as a police officer, so this was his second career, and he just retired from Alaska Airlines. So some
Wow.
of us ended up, being coworkers even now.
Oh, that's so awesome. So you can watch each other grow and kind of
Yeah.
like be there for each other. That's a really strong community. And I mean, and that's a lot of pressure as well too, being a pilot. I mean, I mean, you've got hundreds of people that is, depending on you to get them from point A to point B. What does that pressure feel like for you?
Most days it just feels like on my job. It's, I have a job to do and I'm doing my job. But when I transitioned from Horizon Air, where I had 76 people in the back, to Alaska Airlines, where I have, 180 people in the back, I'm very aware of that. It feels bigger. It feels like more responsibility. And when I upgraded to captain, I definitely feel that responsibility. People are looking to me for answers every day. I'm making decisions, we have a crew and we all work together to get things done, but ultimately I'm the one that has to make the final decision on things. And so it definitely feels like a very big responsibility.
Oh yeah. And then also that trust with your co-pilot as
Yes.
well too. And so with the relationship with you and the crew on board, how important is that?
It's critical. Um, just normal day-to-day operations, we follow a script. So I get in the airplane often with someone I've never met before, but we're following a script. So we don't have to figure out what to do. We just do what we're supposed to do. Um, and in an emergency, there's usually a script to follow for that too. But you have to figure out which script to go to for that emergency. So you have to kind of figure out what the emergency is and then what to do about it. So when things out of the ordinary happen, that's when communication becomes really critical. That you have open lines, that your co-pilot is comfortable expressing, saying, I'm not comfortable with this, or I think maybe we should do this. They have to be comfortable speaking up. And your flight attendants are part of your crew. You're communicating with them. They need to feel comfortable that they're being heard and understood, and that if we have a medical emergency or something, that you are reacting appropriately to their needs. And so it really is. We start every day with a briefing. I brief the flight attendants about how long the flight is, what kind of turbulence, what kind of weather, any special needs that we have during the flight. And I want to make sure they're comfortable coming to me anytime they need something.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Because can you imagine if you were the kind of captain that they're like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah, you really want to set, a good, like open communication where um, where people are comfortable working with you.
Absolutely.
And I have in the past, I've flown with captains who are like a silo, and they're doing their thing and they don't want you to bother them with anything, or disagree. But you really do have to have um, that that openness to be able to communicate what's going on.
Right,
And
right.
I need my co-pilot's input. So, I need them to feel comfortable telling me what they think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I always, it's like getting onto a plane, I'm always thinking about, how everyone gets on board a canoe. And when you are in that canoe and you are the person at the helm, you're the captain, then you have to have the kind of relationship and the kind of trust with your entire crew that if anything was to happen to you, they got your back.
Absolutely.
They got your
Absolutely. That's a great analogy, really. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important and and that's with any organization, right? That's with any organization that if you are a leader, you have to be the kind of leader that is in relationship with your people and that you trust your people that if something was to happen to you, your organization is going to continue in the way that it is, smoothly without having any of the people that you serve knowing what's going on.
Absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
that would be a mess. Yes. And so, it's like that's wayfinding. That's
Right, right,
wayfinding,
right,
right? That's
right,
wayfinding.
right.
And you are a wayfinder. You are a
Yep.
wayfinder. And that is so important, the communication that you're
Yes.
having with your crew, the communication you're having with yourself, right? All of that is is so critical because you have such a big responsibility, a huge responsibility. I mean, you may have 180 people in the back of you on the plane, but that 180 people have families and friends and communities.
Exactly, exactly. It doesn't stop with those people.
Yes. Yes. And so we're taking care, it's like you're taking care of entire communities that is, in that plane, and
Right.
being able to, have these conversations with your crew is important. And, that's where I always talk about, the importance of the guiding principles of aloha, right?
Yes.
So, aloha, the alo presence, ha, the breath of life, that our words are transferred to the next person through our breath, our knowledge, our skills, everything, how we communicate is transferred through breath. So that's important. And then the acronym, that I use for Aloha: ask, listen, observe, heart, and adapt. That, your people need to be able to ask you questions without feeling like, ooh, I better not, or can I just send her a note? Right? They don't want to, they don't want to ask you anything because they don't know what might happen, right? And
Right.
there's been leaders out there that they are so unapproachable that it's like nobody's asking anybody.
Right, right.
That, yeah, that's a tragedy right there. And then listen, right? Being able to listen, listen to your co-pilot, listening to the flight attendants, listening to your own intuition, right? Listening to all of those things that's
Right,
happening
right,
in your body, and then observing that, right? Observing how you're feeling, and what are you bringing? What spirit are you bringing into that cockpit with you?
right.
And then always coming from this place of heart, of care, of compassion, of empathy, and then being able to adapt. And I'm sure, Susan, there's a lot of adapting that you need to do when you're a pilot.
All the time, all the time. Most of the time, things just go as planned, right? But it's not too infrequent that we have something that goes unplanned. And even now, after 20 plus years, I say, "Oh, I've never seen this before. This has never happened to me before." So then you have to adapt and figure out what to do.
Right, right. And then in that place of, and that time of adaptation, it's also looking at your co-pilot like, okay, we got this, right? We're in this together. And being able to trust each other in
Yes,
in that
yes,
space and
yes.
time. And so, yeah, I can imagine, I mean, you talk about it, like this is your job. And to me, it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a huge responsibility and accountability to that position
Right.
because of the position you're in as the captain. Yeah.
And aviation, commercial aviation is incredibly safe, but it's safe because we take it seriously and because we have all these safety protocols in place and we have redundant systems. I mean, it's safe because of all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I think a lot of times people, when people see your responsibility and your accountability to, to the work, um, they don't see those in between spaces, those in between spaces, right? It's like Susan is a pilot, Susan's not a pilot, Susan's a pilot, right? That's all they see. That's all they see. That's all they see is that okay. But there's this space, these in between moments where, you're very active. You're very active. You're okay. Let me just take a moment to have you share some of those outdoor activities. I think they're like, I mean, Superwoman, but can you share on some of the things that you do when you're not flying a plane?
I pretty much like to do anything that's outside. So right now it's winter time, which believe it or not is maybe my favorite season in Alaska because we have so many things to do. The swamps are frozen, so we can ski or ride our bikes on lakes and swamps, all these places that aren't accessible in the summer. I ski, cross country ski, I downhill ski. Tomorrow we're going to ride our fat tire bikes out to a glacier. It's about a 12-mile one-way ride. And then we ride up a river, across a lake, and around the base of the glacier. And the glacier has all these like icebergs that have fallen off of it that we can ride around. And there are always like little tunnels eroded out and like things that you kind of play around with. It's really beautiful. It's supposed to be clear and sunny, so it should be great. Um, I used to do a lot of endurance racing. The last event I did was 2 years ago. I did a 100-mile winter fat tire bike race, so on snow, um, through forest and over lakes for 100 miles. It took 22 hours. In the summer, we backpack and pack raft. We go up in the mountains in northern Alaska above the Arctic Circle, and we'll get dropped off by plane. We'll backpack for a few days, and then we'll inflate our pack rafts and float down the river, and then we'll maybe hike some more or get picked up by a float plane. Um, uh, Sometimes I just go for day hikes or mountain bike rides.
I am like in so awe of you. I am, I'm in so awe of you. I mean, just all of these things that you do. I mean, it's like when you were sharing that, I'm like, wow.
I think I've always loved to be outside, even when I was a little kid on the farm. My sister and I, if we weren't working on the farm, we were swimming in the creek or riding our horses or, just outside doing something. And then in high school, I went to a wilderness challenge camp where we went hiking and rappelling and whitewater rafting. And I sort of, that's when I was like, this is cool. This is what I want to do. And then when I worked in Yellowstone Park, I backpacked all over the park. I did a ton of day hiking. I learned to cross country ski there in the winter. And so it's just kind of always been what I love doing. And wherever I live, there's always something that's unique to that area that I'll adopt and sort of learn to do.
That's amazing. That is, you break every barriers. You break all the barriers, you know. And I love it. I love it because I'm a barrier breaker as well too,
Yes, yes, you
right?
are.
And
Yes,
I don't like to like stay in my little box and have
right,
people
right,
tell me
right,
what I'm supposed to do and
right,
not supposed to do. So it's like if somebody tells me that, I can't do that, I'm like,
right.
wait, hold on. Let me just try it and see.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's yeah, so that's awesome. I think that's why Shi Chung brought us together is
Right.
because
Right.
it was about, breaking barriers and everything and then the power of the pause. The power of the
Yes.
pause is what she
Yes. Yep.
what she was talking about and then that courageous shift and everything, right? So that was a great conference. So the question, and I know that you and I talked about this, you're like, I don't know about this question. So the question that I have is, like, So people see the leap, but they don't see the space. And also those spaces in between, like, thank you so much for sharing about all of your outdoor activities, but between a pilot and all of these outdoor activities that you're doing, there's this moment where everything goes quiet. And what I wanted to ask is, in that space, when you are thinking about um, all of the things that you went through to become a pilot, and then what happened prior to that, in your life, all the changes that was happening in your life, and then just right now, what did you have to face within yourself in that space when you were no longer who you were? It's like, okay, I'm working here at Yellowstone. I'm going through a divorce. I'm going through these things. But then yet you were still trying to figure out who you were going to become. So what was that conversation like with yourself in that space when you were in between, no longer who you were, but yet not fully who you're becoming?
That's first of all, I feel like I've lived like 1,000 different lives within my lifetime. Like I look back at some of those periods and it doesn't even feel like me. It was someone else a long time
Mm-hmm.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're not done. Like I still don't really know exactly what my future holds. I'm, about to get married for the second time in my life. And I'm starting to contemplate retirement and what that looks like for me. And so it's exciting, but I don't think we're ever done with that process. I haven't just become someone, I'm still evolving. And you grow and adapt and you learn from all the things you've done in your past and you kind of build on that and feel older and wiser and still excited for new things.
Absolutely. That was beautiful. That was beautiful, Susan. That's it. It's
Yeah.
like we're always becoming. We're
Yeah,
always evolving.
absolutely.
And in those spaces, I know that a lot of time there could also be doubt. Can I do this? Should I do this? Am I supposed to do this? What is going to happen if I do this? Right? There's all of these things, and especially as women, we there's a responsibility sometimes that we feel like we're supposed to do a certain thing because this is what society has told us,
That's
you know
yep.
and 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 it becomes, sometimes we can find ourselves, I mean, I don't know if that has ever happened to you, but sitting back and questioning and contemplating, and that place where sometimes doubt does exist, or what people would call imposter syndrome. Have you heard of that term before?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
discussed quite frequently with in my industry with women
Yes.
and women in sports also, imposter syndrome. So I think it's super, super common. And I don't, I mean, I have no science to back this up, but I suspect it's even more common with the advent of social media because on social media, everyone seems to have their stuff together, right? And have
Yes.
it going on and be organized. And what you don't see is the doubts and the failures and the when things aren't going so great.
Yes.
So I think that even contributes more. They're like, wow, all these people have it going on, and I don't know if I can compete. And I've definitely struggled with that in my life too, and it's a constant conversation with myself. I'm like, okay, 20 years of taking, dozens of passing dozens of flight tests and taking an annual simulator check. Like I wouldn't have passed all of those things for, you can fake it to a certain degree, but you can't fake it that much for that long. So I'm always reminding myself, okay, I got here because I worked hard and I prepared, and I didn't just fake it here.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I was on LinkedIn yesterday, and there was a quote that came up by Abby Adamson. And the quote is, "A woman can be the most senior person in the room and still spend half the meeting proving she deserves to be there. That is not imposter syndrome. That is a culture problem."
Right. Yeah.
And that just, that kind of like hit me differently when I read that. And, it's like, yeah, thank you so much for answering that so beautifully. I mean, especially when it comes to you're the captain. And, it's like if you're in a room, have you ever felt like, as a captain, you're in a room with a lot of other captains who are male? Do you ever feel like you have to like sometimes prove yourself?
I feel like I used to more than I do now. I'm really fortunate to work at an airline that treats people fairly and equitably, and I don't feel different at all. In our Anchorage base, we have a lot of women
Oh, good.
pilots. I don't know what the percentage is, but I mean, it would take two hands to list them all. We have quite a lot. And so it's pretty common for me to fly with a female co-pilot. Or when I was the co-pilot, I would fly with a female captain. It's not uncommon at all. And so I don't struggle with that as much now, but I have in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, how did you respond to that in the past? I'm so glad that you don't have to deal with that right now, but in the past, how did you respond to that? On
Um,
how,
I think as a woman, you just have to be more prepared, like to be taken seriously. If it's in the classroom, I have to be, I have to study more. I have to be more prepared. Um, just uh, because you can't get anything wrong, right?
yeah, right, right, exactly, exactly. So in the beginning, Susan, I talked about how aloha isn't just love. It's presence, it's breath, and it's the courage to fully show up. And so after everything you've navigated, the risks, the reinvention, the sky itself, how do you now live aloha in your daily life? And not as a word, but as a practice of presence, breath, and how you show up for others.
I try to start every morning. I do a little yoga, sometimes meditation, but always, a little yoga just to center myself and my body. Um, I try to be there for my friends and family as much as I can. I'm like you, it can be super frustrating to see all the things going on in the world and not be discouraged by those, but I try to see the good in people and share as as much I'm losing my words now, but to share, um, to be inspiring, to offer something good to people. I try to smile and greet people when they're getting off the plane. I try to encourage. Um, we had a ski event on the lakes behind my house last week, and there were tons of little kids out, and I encourage the little kids when I ski past them, and just to be a positive human being.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Susan, for being here with me and sharing this hour. Just I know a lot more now about what it is to be a pilot, especially
Well, I
a
hope I see
female
you
pilot.
on one of my flights sometime. That would
Oh,
be real fun.
absolutely, absolutely. And so thank you everyone for listening to the evolution of Aloha podcast. And I just want everyone to know that when you walk out into your day, when you're tired, you're frustrated, when it's easier to look away. I think that's the moment and that's the place where aloha lives. So it doesn't exist in just the beautiful spaces or the places where you think of when you think of Hawaii. It's also in the spaces where it's not so easy, but it's your choice to actually stay open to it anyway. So, because we're all connected, whether we act like it or not, breathing the same air, moving through the same world, trying to find our way back to each other, I just want to leave you with this, that be the kind of person who notices, who pauses, who chooses to care when no one else is keeping score. And if something in you shifted today, even just a little, then don't let it close back up. Sit with it, move with it, and let it change you. And we'll be right here, same energy, same space, and ready to keep going. And so, Susan, thank you so much for sharing this time with us. And thank you, everyone. This is the Evolution of Aloha, a Plowline production. You can stay tuned for upcoming episodes with the other amazing people from around the world. And don't forget to subscribe to the Evolution of Aloha and Plowline podcast. It's available on all of your popular podcast platforms. And please help us continue this work by becoming a supporter and head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/evolution of aloha. And your contributions will go directly toward producing and building engaging and quality content. So until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other. And aloha, everyone. And mahalo for being here. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.